Hey everybody, this is Stu Smith along with Jeff Nichols, and we are going to do the tactical fitness report. And this one is on commitment. And originally, Jeff and I were going to do something a little bit on law enforcement and talk a little bit about the whole process of getting to and through law enforcement, maybe advancing into a SWAT career, things like that. However, kind of got I just saw a need, I guess, after watching one of Jeff's Instagram posts, and you guys can check out his Instagram feed here in the description if you haven't already. But anyway, I looked at it and I kind of feel his pain a little bit, whenever we have people that we train, that we see, that say they want to be SEALs or say they want to be this or that, and it requires a level of commitment. And I think this one would be a good idea just to talk a little bit about the type of commitment it takes to do these kind of professions, in the tactical world. And it doesn't have to be BUD/S. So we could talk about military, law enforcement, firefighter type commitment it takes to do that kind of career, to get to, through, and stay in that job. And I don't want to come across as the guy with perfect commitment. I didn't serve 20 years in the military. Some people might look at that as like, I can honestly say I did not have the commitment to stay in for 20 years, but, as Jeff and I will discuss, commitments change. I started having a family and, started getting injuries and things like that. And, those aren't excuses, because I have friends of mine that stayed in for 25, 30 years already, and they have families and injuries. And, they made it happen, so their level of commitment was higher than mine. So, it graduates, everybody has a different level of commitment throughout things, but you can work on things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff real quick, and just because he kind of motivated me to do this one, and I thought we'd do it together. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we all, for me too, I am, for those of you who've been following me for a while or know me in person, I tend to be a little bit pretty aggressive and emotional at certain things, and that's certainly not my intent. But I do want to hammer something a little bit, is that Stu and I aren't so old and so certainly not removed from the community's pulse that we don't understand your desires to really just throw yourself into this, because in some regard it really does take that. But a lot of times what happens is I'm guilty of it just in general. Sometimes I get, and probably my initial post of agreeing to do online training was almost that. I was like, you know what? I've been asked enough. I'm just going to throw it out there and see what sort of response I got. The response was tremendous. But for me, even preparing clear guidelines and as it starts to unfold, it's not so clear to so many people. And that's on me. But there's a big component of it where I still am getting questions like, hey, what are the PT scores for me to get into BUD/S? And that shows me, and it shows Stu, that a person didn't even bother Googling it, because there is a website specific, as many of you already know, specific. And some of you are scratching your head going, this I can't believe. I probably get 3 of those a day.
Yeah, same.
Probably at least 3 a week of saying, hey, what's the PT scores necessary to be a SEAL?
How long is BUD/S? How long is BUD/S?
How long do you have to hold your breath? All these sort of things. And, now when Stu and I went through BUD/S, there wasn't information that was readily accessible, but you could find the internet. Like for me, it was about 1996 when I kind of committed. I was a senior in high school. It was kind of out there, but not so much. But right now, a big component of the community that we are kind of holding the keys to, respectfully, is that we want you guys to do as much research as you can. You're going to find that there's a lot of information that's not available, and that's kind of, especially for training in BUD/S, and that's where we come in. And we are not recruiters. I don't represent, and I know Stu doesn't officially represent the United States Navy. So we also, that's the other, a lot of those questions were like someone go, hey, what's the necessary something, like, hey, I've had possession charges, but it wasn't for, like, I can't legally even give you guidance. I'm not comfortable with, like, I don't know. You're going to have to go see a recruiter. And I actually had someone email me 2 days ago. He's a corpsman in the Navy asking how to come in. And I was like, well, shoot, man, like that falls on the military leadership, just quite frankly, not doing their job. But it's not really my place to go tell your chief he's stupid. Like that's not at all. So anyways, the point of all it is like, we are willing to help as much as we can, but we can only help you if you have shown yourself to be helping yourself first. Like that's a station, you're going to hear this a million times you get the military. Self-aid, buddy aid, corpsman aid. Okay, yeah. So what does that mean? Help yourself first. If you can't help yourself, find a buddy that can help you. When your buddy and yourself have maximized your ability to help, that's when you find the professional, the corpsman, right? The Stu and I, or really the recruiter. So we're kind of the buddy. Okay, self-help, he and I are the buddy. Then beyond us, you got to go see a recruiter, okay? Yeah. Or someone specifically employed by spec warfare to help you out.
Yes, absolutely. Think about this too. I mean, I know we're talking about commitment, but part of your commitment is also having one of the first things they will teach you in the military to have, and that is initiative, right? Taking the initiative to find out answers to things, without having to say, hey, how many push-ups do I need to do? Those things are easy to find out, especially now with Google. I mean, before my time, we didn't even have the internet or email. Mm-hmm. I mean, that wasn't even a thing, so you had to find books on it. And, I think there were some magazines that were pretty cool that came out. All Hands magazine was awesome. That was probably, 5 or 6 pictures of SEAL teams. That's all I had, and, that was motivating enough. Now, there's movies about it, which is really cool.
And then maybe that's the conundrum too, is because some of you are probably picking up the idea that there's a lot of misinformation out there. Unfortunately,
yeah, it's almost too much. It's too much information.
And a lot of that's generated by not even so much the movies, books, and so, but there's so much dialogue around. If you just go to Instagram and some of the SEAL postings, you have everybody putting in their 2 cents, and none of them have been through BUD/S typically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, no, I have a neighbor that said this, that they do this. They have to raise a puppy and kill it in first phase. And like, people believe that stuff still,
and
it's unfortunate. And that is where Stu and I really came to terms, like, not only can we help these guys, because when we first started thinking, hey, let's do this. Let's look only at training. And then we realized that, we can actually help these guys, all of you, prepare for not just BUD/S, but military tactical service, law enforcement, and so forth, just by getting the emotional and social preparation as well.
Right. So let's do this. We said we're going to talk about commitment. I'm going to share my screen here, and we are going to actually just read it. Right. So you see that, Jeff?
It's coming up.
Okay. So anyway, we have commitment. And it is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or activity, and here's it used in a sentence: a recruit's commitment to serving. That is a type of word that we use, a lot when you're thinking about serving your country. It requires a certain level of commitment. Your commitment to special ops preparation is another level of commitment. Some synonyms we use: dedication, devotion, allegiance, loyalty, faithfulness, fidelity, those type of things. If you want to use it as another form, it's an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. That is kind of a long-winded way of saying, you have a family commitment, or, hey, I can't go party tonight. I got to go work out. I have a workout commitment.
Right.
Those are type of things that, require you to have some discipline and be able to, be responsible, and think of it as a duty, as a, obligation, for you, to move forward, because that is what commitment is. You have to find it.
Right. And I think that, and so just for me, and I think I know I've said this before, it would have been a very difficult thing for me to commit as Stu did, at such a young age to the Naval Academy. I had a hard time going, man, the level of commitment that's necessary to go to the Naval Academy, I didn't know that I was socially or emotionally equipped for that. So I didn't pursue that route. Now, did that mean that I wasn't committed? No. And that's where Stu and I talked about a lot of times was, Stu was like, if I don't go down that road, college is going to redirect me.
Yeah. I needed a little discipline.
Right. And so I was a pretty introverted, shy kid, but I was really focused, like really, really focused on what I wanted to do. So first of all, don't mistake or misunderstand our commitment saying this is the only way. Commitment, as you hopefully are seeing, is fairly general, but it's very specific in intent.
Yeah, absolutely. You set yourself with a goal, and then you have to start driving your commitment to do things that help you achieve that goal. That may be working harder in school. It may be working harder on the sports field, right, to get an athletic scholarship. It may be, working harder in your training to prepare for special ops, programming. Those are the type of things that you have to do, when you have a goal, and that becomes a commitment. So, it's kind of a tough, it's really one of those intangibles to talk about, because you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. It is just something that you have inside that really goes hand in hand with discipline.
Yep.
It is, you have to start disciplining yourself to do these things. It's great to be motivated, right? And, we were all motivated by a poster or a movie or a book or something that said, hey, I really want to try to be a Navy SEAL one day.
Yep.
But that motivation doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
You have to turn that motivation into habits, and by being disciplined and, always never forgetting your commitment to what your goal is, and striving. And it's not so much, hey, I achieved this goal. It's that, hey, I never quit achieving this goal, and remember, BUDS isn't spec war. It is a butt kicker, and is your test. It's going to test your commitment like nothing else.
I think there's a big difference between the two, but oftentimes they seem to be interchangeable. And you've already said it, is there's commitment and there's motivation. And it's funny you mentioned the poster. I don't think you can see it. Maybe you can. It's not very clear. It's a thick cardstock poster that my recruiter gave me. I have it framed. I had it in my dorm room.
Oh, cool.
I have it framed. I haven't put it up yet. I still got to put it up on my walls. But my point, it was a reminder to me. It motivated me. You already said it right. It's perfect. It's like, it motivated me. But that poster, that motivation isn't what compelled me to make that leap. It was my commitment to do that.
Yeah.
And we got to stop thinking that just motivation is going to propel us to make choices, and it won't. And that's where a lot of, Stu and I keep saying, hey, especially for you guys who are 18 and 19, we do understand your directional motivation in the fire. We know it burns hot, but when that fire is so hot, it makes you seem irresponsible. It's something as simple as sending an email like, it's, hey bro, or dude. Like, call me Jeff. I don't expect sir or anything like that, or Mr. Nichols necessarily, but hey Jeff, here's my issue. Can you help me please? And this kind of all started because I had a guy, he posted my program for free for people. I have means of tracking people down, and I did. And when I called and emailed him, but before I did that, I called the Master Chief at BUDS and made sure that the Master Chief knew his name. I'm a cynical bastard, I know that, but that's how I work. So, yeah. But then I had a phone conversation. I tried to call him because, again, people like me have means of finding numbers. I can do that. I know people. So I called, and his response was an email I'm paraphrasing, I could read it. It was, "Hey bro, I thought you said you wanted to help people get through BRUDS. First of all, don't call me bro."
Yeah.
And then, or bud, or accuse me of not trying to help people. And then his last statement was, "Well, I guess you need to pay the bills." And, I think that for me, the biggest thing about commitment is this, and it's bridges on something else, but this is where I derive my commitment, is that if you think that the military, especially spec war, is going to allow you to be laissez-faire, if you will, about how you treat people, how you interact with them professionally, because if you interact and treat people that way in a time where it's super threatening and life-threatening and dangerous, people die. Now, what I don't want it to feel like, oh my God, like he's blown this a big proportion. You're right. I'm really trying to compare two things that are almost very difficult to compare, but understand where Stu and I in our community comes from. I'm not always serious, and I don't take myself too seriously sometimes, but it's the community that Stu and I are trying to look after, right? I'll take care of myself, and I know Stu is going to do the same thing for his family, but the community is something that Stu and I, we don't like it. We love it. It's who we are. We're part of it. We're part of the people holding the keys to that city. And if we allow people to get into that community with such sort of neglect, then that reflects poorly upon how we perceive the community. And also, the community is well aware of what Stu and I do. Yeah. We either do it really well, and the community is like, yep, we support what they do, or we do make some mistakes, and the community is like, hey guys, you are not a representative of us, and we don't want you around. Yeah. And that's the worst thing. Yeah. And so that's what we're trying to help you guys do, is like, let's have your first introduction to the community we love and that hopefully you guys get into. Let's make it a positive one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, I had the honor this week to work out with Huntington High School Navy Junior ROTC. There were a bunch of freshmen that thought hey, I think I want to serve one day, and I'm going to do this high school junior ROTC program. And, I was their first introduction to military PT, and I took that honor very seriously because I wanted them to come out of there fired up, not intimidated, very proud of themselves for, going 3 days of workouts with me. And anyway, I just want to give a little shout out to you guys. But, that's the same thing. I mean, I don't think any of these kids are going to be SEALs. Maybe one of them, but they have a commitment, or they potential commitment to serve. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that find us. There's a saying, in the SEAL teams that, the motivated find the teams, Yep. And you can get there without Jeff and me. I mean, by all means, there are people making it through BUDS every year that have never heard of us. Right. And, and in fact, whenever we send people to BUDS and they make it through and they're SEALs now, I take no credit for that because I prepared them as best as I could, but there was a time during their training where they had to really suck it up, and complete failure, can't move another muscle, but they did anyway.
That's on them.
They found that commitment. They found that commitment. They turned off the negative, voices in their head, or the instructor that's telling them that they suck and they're never going to be a SEAL. They turned all that off and they just kept moving. They drove forward with that commitment. And that is the type of commitment you have to have if you want to serve your country, especially in the special ops world.
Yeah. And so I think maybe for Stu and I, the next step has got to be, okay, like we've had our soapbox speech now for 20 minutes or so. So how do we provide, and that's, again, part of our community is like, if you have a problem, great. but don't work it up your chain of command until you come with a solution or a form of a resolution that improves. Okay. So let's help you guys find out, okay, well, we don't want you to make the same mistakes that we see all the time or that we ourselves have gone through, because it's not just cliche. Like we are in a position because of our ability to reach out to you all and say, hey, don't make these mistakes, right? As far as commitment. Some of them are happenstantial on my side just because I was a bit older and I was ready and mature or whatever that means. But again, it's like mine is this. If you want to be a SEAL, you think you want to be a SEAL or Ranger or Green Beret or go on the black side of the Army or whatever it is, PJ, combat control, or what, fire, police, do as much research on that as you can first. Like that's your first step. Like I think that's it, because it sounds crazy. Like my young son, like he didn't particularly care for Legos. Bear with me. And then he actually started like, oh no, we buy them, and then he had to put them together, and now he values them because he did the work.
Right.
Nothing in life, and that is a big part of why Buds does what it does to people is because of two things, above a lot of things. But in my mind, it's like you have to do all the work, but you do it with the other people doing all the same work, and that is why that brotherhood is so strong. One of the reasons, and we're putting out plans for you guys, but you're doing all the work. You own it. Yeah. You've got to own it. And if you don't own it, then it's not yours. I'm not there to hold your hand, and Stu's not there to hold your hand now, but we're going to get guys that really are like hitting all cylinders. And part of me is like, man, I want to be there every day to help this guy out. It's not feasible, but I even had a woman. I've had two women now say, hey, I really want to train to do this and do that. And I'm like, all right, well, if you're serious about it, let's do it. And they money where their mouth is. They went for it, right? I had a guy that's a contractor call me from Iraq the other night. He's coming on his break time. He's contracting, coming in for a week because he needs to learn he's going to the agency side. And I'm familiar with that as he wants to do a week PT with me and a week of shooting with me.
Fun.
So it's like, well, okay, well, I can certainly do that. And he's just like, all right, I'll be there on the 19th or whatever day. Like, let's do this. Put your money where your mouth is. Now, financially, he certainly can afford that. But it's not about money also. That's the last piece. I get that, and I know Stu understands that. I put myself through school. I was on food stamps, and I found jobs to put me through school, right? And then I was a scholarship athlete, but I also – as you know, maybe not back in the day, scholarship athletes couldn't work. It made them ineligible. So I had to I would cook food for people and I would eat their leftovers. That was the agreement. I was like, hey man, I'll go grocery shopping for you. I'll make your meals for you for 2 or 3 days. And anything that I can't fit in the Ziploc bags or in the containers, can I have the rest? That's how I fed myself. So I get broke college student. I get it. Okay. That's not an excuse for me.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, now you may not be able to afford some of the books and online stuff, but that doesn't mean, Stu and I are going to keep putting information out. So,
oh yeah. I mean, I got tons of articles that you can find with great workouts on them. And, even you can send me an email and just ask me, how do I organize this in a week? If you want to do that, happy to help you with that. In fact, another one is time management. When you're a college kid or maybe even a high school kid, play sports, might even work a job, on the weekends, your time is tight. How do you fit fitness into that schedule? Yep. I used to wake up first thing in the morning, 5:30. Luckily I was a morning person. That just naturally happened. I'd go work out, I'd swim. Before I go to school, then I go to football practice or wrestling practice or whatever sport I was doing that semester and, do that. And then I go study, and it was just a constant cycle. I mean, I've been doing that for years, and believe it or not, when I got to Buds, the time management thing just was unbelievable. I couldn't believe, that I actually had some free time, to take care of my gear and kind of lick my wounds and get ready for the next day. I mean, and the weekends too were awesome because, it's not like you had to do a lot of homework. and papers and things like that to write. I mean, you just had to just relax, recover, and get ready for Monday, and that was fun. When you drive your whole life pushing, and I tell people all the time, how long, when they ask me how long does it take to train for a SEAL, it takes all your life. It's not like a 6-month thing and you're ready. You can train specifically for 6 months, maybe for a year, some people, depending on your abilities. But, really in the big picture, your whole life of pushing yourself and having some discipline and never quitting things, just helps you, process the stress that you are about to endure.
Yeah, something new is happening. I say new. I mean, the SEAL community has only been around since the 60s. I mean, before that, the Scouts and Raiders in the 50s, and before that, with the underwater demolition, all the way back to, I guess, the Scouts and Raiders in England, right? But right. I think that what we are experiencing, Stu and I, and trying to figure out how to best handle is that there are kids at my son's age now that want to be now over the last 10 years have wanted to be SEALs. Yeah. Like that, which is awesome. I mean, which is really good. That's not a negative statement at all, but we're trying to go, well, man, we're getting 18-year-olds that are emailing on, I wanted to be a SEAL since I was 8. And I'm like, man, when I was 8, I just wanted to ride bikes and play baseball.
I wanted to learn how to throw a curveball.
And it's for us to go, hey man, that part of me is like, that's crazy. Like, what would you do in your childhood? Yeah. And that would be a terrible thing to say to somebody. Yeah. Because love is love. And especially when you have this true love and drive to serve our country and our military, like, we can never have enough of those people. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think they're just getting it. I mean, there just was no information when we were doing it. Right. It wasn't, I didn't really think about becoming a SEAL till I was 19 years old. And I was a year at the Naval Academy, and I was exposed to pilots and Marines and surface guys and sub guys. Because you don't have to commit until your junior year, correct? Right. Yeah. Of like where you're if you're going to go Marine or Navy, even first semester senior year. When I was in there. Okay. Yeah. So and that's for us to try to we are doing our best to empathize with you all and kind of figure out how to wear your shoes, so to speak, and walk in those steps with you. But we keep coming, he and I keep having a conversation. It keeps coming back to what we're seeing is, we'll say 30% of the people that reach out to us have not even informed themselves. Do that. Like, it's yours. You've got to own it. And it's not that, like, I'll get you the information regardless or do my best to, unless there's a total disregard, right? Like, I had, just stuff like, hey man, like, why do you have tattoos? Sometimes you just have to ignore things. And I know that it's not coming from really a point of disrespect, but in my generation, like, oh, here I'm the old guy, right? Like, there's a different way to ask somebody that's a total stranger to you. Yeah, especially if you're asking for help. Yeah. That's not the way to go about doing it. Yeah, there is a certain way. In fact, I wrote an article a while back ago because I got this email, and I think we might have talked about it. This is probably one of the first reasons why I called Jeff and said, hey, let's do a podcast together, because I saw his frustration one day and he posted something about some dude calling him, hey, bud, hey, bro, and I was like, oh man, I get emails sometimes and there's no punctuation. There's no capitalization, and it's a good 8 or 9, 10 lines long. Yeah. And somewhere in that word maze, there's 5 questions, that I have to try to figure out. I was just like, I send it back. I said, punctuate this and I'll answer it. Yeah. I don't have time to play word word puzzles, to figure out what you're asking. Because I think that and the reason why too, this is all training, because and this, I mean this and I know Stu will reiterate this too. As a young SEAL, as an E5, as an E4 even, because of my expertise, I was a sniper and those sort of things. You take these lanes of perfection or of profession, excuse me. You will be on the battlefield having to brief 06s, 07s, right? You're going to see stars and you'll be like, I'm going to need 4. Like you have got to be able to talk to somebody as a peer, but with respect and that you know what you're talking about. You know, I remember being in Fallujah and Ramadi and places, and because our 0304, they're off really like running like things and like, hey man, you got the sniper overwatch. We needed to brief the command sergeant major and the captain or the colonel. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this. And, you know, you have to lay out the battle plan for them. You have got to be able to understand your audience. That's huge. You have to understand your audience.
Yeah, not just talking to people, but as well as writing correspondence to people. I mean, because there may not be a person there, and you may have to write all of that up and send it to them. You know, and trust me, you have to punctuate and capitalize.
Yes.
You know, and use good English.
Absolutely. And we get like, and we really understand, like you get the ones that are like, you can tell the person is really nervous and they just sir a lot and this perfect. Like no issues with that. And now don't get me wrong. I call people bro, but they're like close to me.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that. And I'm also not opposed to guys that I train. Like some of the guys I am training, like, hey man, doesn't bother me at all. Like I've gotten to know them. I know who they are as people. But again, kicking that dead horse.
Yeah.
Take your time, because he and I aren't going anywhere. As far as like us trying to help folks, get your, like you can see these guys that are fired up and they just shoot off an email and they didn't even think about it. Like I get, 1 out of every 5 emails, it doesn't even, like, their email isn't their name. And it doesn't even, so I don't even know how to respond to it.
Right.
Like as like, hey, what's your name?
Right. Yeah. So
slow down. Okay. We're here. We're going to help. But you got to understand that this is, what is it? I forget the movie. It's like everything is a test.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. If it's worded a certain way, or if I won't even respond to it.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a little going joke around my group here in Maryland. Whenever people are asking me when we're training in the morning, they'll say they'll craft this email that took them, 15, 20 minutes to, just get the words out and everything's fine. And then I send a response saying 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm not trying to be rude. I just got about 80 more of those to answer.
Yeah. And it's funny because like after all these years, email has not gotten any more efficient.
No, it hasn't made life that much easier. I don't think
it's crazy. Like, cause like I said, all the emails I'm sitting in my blocks. I'm like, and a third of them are the same answer. 10 of them are. It's just like you have to go in. So, and we're not complaining about emails and stuff. Like keep them coming. That's fine.
Yes,
but
please. They give me ideas to write about. Because if I see the same email over and over and over again, I'm going to write an article.
That's what we end up talking about.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to say, hey, go to this article. I just answered this one 2 years ago.
For sure.
So, yeah.
And that's why Stu and I have content, because, it's rare that we get a question that's new.
Yeah.
So that's why he and I are trying to populate these answers in something other than something you have to read. I think that the visual aspect of these things are far more appealing because people can listen to them on their car ride home or while at work or whatever. And we try to make them as family friendly as possible. So my son sits and listens to me and he picks up stuff, and he was lecturing me about sleep the other day. So
that's awesome.
I'm like, I know, but the families in town are crazy. And I anyway, but so, I mean, I guess in summary for so much of this is that, don't mistake motivation for commitment. I mean, commitment is a real thing. If you're having a hard time figuring out like, well, I don't know. And that's the last piece too, or like the big thing is there was no time in my life where I was like, yep, absolutely. Now is the time to be a SEAL. Yeah. I can tell you the most difficult thing for me about becoming a SEAL was that commitment to go, you know what? I got to put my big boy pants on. I have to go to a recruiter. When I go to the recruiter, I'm going to have to commit, like really commit. I'm going to have to go to MEPS. I'm going to put my hand up in front of the flag and say, yep. And my big boy pants better be tight. Yeah. And they were. And that's a tough one for someone where you feel like you're going to be giving up these freedoms like the military is some sort of archaic monster. Like especially the SEAL community and the Special Forces community, the SEAL community, you don't spend a whole lot of time around the general military population. No. It's almost like I had a military ID and that's it. Yeah. That was it. I wore my uniform. The only time I ever wore a uniform was only a couple times near funerals. Yeah. Never was in uniform. Other than, occasionally like being forward deployed, being in camis and stuff and briefing generals and so forth. But it's not that that's a good or bad thing. And my point is that the military for everybody would be good if you're open to it. Let the military forge the person that you want to become, especially at BUD/S. But it takes that big leap of faith. But before you do that leap of faith, educate yourself as much as you can, and the information for a lot of those sort of general questions are there. Find them, educate yourself, and then track he and I down.
Right.
Or whoever.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, find someone who's been there, done that. A mentor of any type. Whenever I sent this text to you, Jeff, you made a really good point. Express the seriousness and importance of treating commitment, differently than general fitness and sports.
Yep.
The commitment to the military is similar. And once again, all of these things, whether it's your fitness or it's your life and how you handle stress, it is a logical progression year after year after year. You get a little bit better, year after year after year. And, your commitment to previous things, sports, school, family, those type of things are beneficial to you and how you handle, future commitments.
For sure. And that's just just so you know, like I know we it's just easiest to label all this stuff, the tactical fitness report. It's just easy. It's what Stu is perfect.
Yeah.
So, but understand that when we talk about general fitness and guys will go, hey, I just, just be upfront with us. If someone's like, hey, I don't even know that I want to do military service, but I really want to improve my general fitness. Awesome. Right? Just be clear with us. And then, talking about sport in itself is super important to many people, and it should be because there's that commitment to your team and yourself, and your family or whatever it is. But there's different levels of, at some point, now sport does a pretty good job of preparing people for military service.
Yeah.
But there is that next level of, because you have, very few sports demand autonomy. Wrestling is one of those few, but there's still a team component to it.
Right.
Those first couple weeks of boot camp or all of boot camp, aside from the team building, it's autonomy. You're the one that's got to step your foot onto that bus or that airplane to go to the recruiting depot, or show up and get yelled at and like get in line and get on the feet and get on the, especially the Marine Corps. What a beautiful thing that is to watch.
Oh,
I can watch that on Discovery Channel and go, oh man, that sounds awful. And I've already been through it, not the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps, nobody does it better, my opinion.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better.
They're a hardcore fighting force.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Real quick. One other thing, I like reading these texts that you and I kick back and forth whenever we're talking about our next thing. One thing we also said was, consider commitment a perishable skill or a characteristic.
Yes.
If you do not do something every day to challenge your commitment, you will lose it. It can be as simple as waking up early to an alarm clock, dipping your foot in the pool, jumping in before dawn when it's cold, running a little bit harder, a little bit longer, doing one more repetition. All those little things can be a great way to progressively, increase your commitment levels.
Yep. That's the beauty is like when he's saying too, just the big picture framework is time management. You may not be a person that's a very, I'm not, I can get up early, but I just, today I was talking to Stu off camera. I was like, man, I got up this morning really early, about 5:30 to take my mom to the airport, and it was just beautiful here. And I was like, but I did not feel like doing PT, but I really like being up. So point is let's say you're not an early riser. That doesn't mean that you can't create good framework around time management. It's like, well, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to eat breakfast. I'm going to try to get breakfast and everything done by 9:30, whatever it is. I'm going to get some work done or whatever I got to do, like do yard work, chores, whatever your family needs you to do or your commitments do, go to work, make sure I don't miss meals, right? I'm going to train at 4:30, rain or shine. That's your framework. Stick to it, okay? Because you're going to find that the better you're able to stick to your own framework, when somebody reaches in and goes, nope, your framework is no longer yours, you're by our schedule, it's easier for you to assimilate into theirs. But if you're just like a shotgun and you're like, I don't know, I just kind of do my thing. And then Stu and I've talked to this so many times, that's a big shock when you get to the military, when all of a sudden your framework timeline is never yours. Like, it's so much to even like, when do I go to the bathroom? Well, there is no real bathroom breaks at Buds. You just learn to urinate standing up.
Yeah, you figure it out. Or in the water.
Yeah, like that is by design. So create some framework for yourself and try to stick to it. Don't try, do it.
Hey, one last thing. I posted this yesterday on Instagram saying that you and I were going to talk about commitment. And I actually got a pretty good question. Okay. And this is not really a question. It was more of a statement. And anyway, his commitment has been shaken, mainly by people who have gone before him. His buddies that have gone before him and said that, they're trying to talk me out of serving. These guys are in the military. He said there's too much red tape, there's politics, policies, and rules, and it's more like a business than the military. They said that it's not your father's military anymore, and suggested I not join, which obviously has shaken my commitment. I'd love to hear our thoughts on that. Well, my answer, and I answered him, I said, the rules and laws and regulations of unleashing a military response are required. So there are certain rules there. It's not the wild, wild west. However, most of these policies and rules, are written in blood, meaning, these safety procedures you have to do, someone died probably doing it the way that they're trying to teach you not to do it. Yeah. So there are rules in that. But it also depends on what job you're going after in the military to how, hard they are with your time.
Yes.
So.
I'll try to, my response is right in line with yours. And the saying in the Navy is choose your rate, choose your fate. Now, without knowing what these individuals who are trying to deter this individual go in the military, I don't know. If he wanted to be a SEAL, ends up being a postal clerk, he's probably pretty unhappy. And because what I'm hearing here is the vast majority. I've come across hundreds of people that have quit Buds. Only 2 of them have taken ownership of it. Yeah. The rest of them are like, oh yeah, they were unfair. I got an email the other day about racism in Buds. Yeah. And I was like, or in the SEAL communities. And I just think that that's so laughable because certainly maybe it's easy for me to say that because I'm Caucasian white is the primary. Why is that? Don't know. But what I do know is that the community looks at one thing. If you're a good dude, you're a good dude. If you're an a-hole, you're an a-hole.
And doesn't matter. I would tell you this too. I mean, we need people that don't look like your typical American too. Yep. And they will give you a lot of chances to prove yourself, in there. And I'm not saying that as any type of affirmative action or whatever. I mean, it is, we need guys, in the military, especially on the special ops side, that can blend into a country anywhere in the world, and they would not know that you're an American. Yeah. It gets that real.
Yeah. About the only place that I do well, and I did work, was, you start getting into northern Afghanistan, into other places up there, or you get into Poland, which we're not at war with, but I have a long red beard and long blondish red hair. I'm a big guy. I fit in really well until I have to speak the language. So my point is that kind of all these sort of things that these people that are anyone, and I'll say this, now there's some exceptions to this, anybody that's military, that's active duty, and that's going to go, the military is not where you want to be, they screwed something up. They made a wrong decision. They're rubbing people the wrong way. They didn't get what they want. They're being a spoiled brat. The military gives you every opportunity as a responsible adult to go, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do. And there are regulations and rules that set in place to make sure you can get there.
Yeah, and
now,
you can change your job too.
You can.
Yeah.
And it's like, now, is it a snap of a finger going, oh,
No.
no. But that's military service is based on wearing your big boy pants. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some guys wearing big boy pants that are just, pain in the butt. But my experience has always been, if you want it, you go get it.
Yeah, same.
That's it. Like that's the simple answer. If you want to join military service or whatever job you want to do, you go do it. Don't let anybody else tell you that, because it's a bunch of crap. They just didn't make the right decisions.
Yeah,
that's what I gotta say.
And sometimes you do get screwed. Sometimes there's a numbers game. Like there's only 20 officer billets that come out of the Naval Academy.
Yep.
Right. And if you're 21, you're going to have to go surface first.
Yeah.
And then lateral transfer 2 years later and go to BUDS. My BUDS class, from the academy, we sent 20 guys. All 20 of us made it through BUDS. And then we had 8 more guys from my class who made it through BUDS. And we had a few guys in that mix that didn't make it, but that were part of the 10 or 12 that went to BUDS after us. But you can find a way to get what you want.
Yes.
By one, being a good guy,
by having commitment.
And having commitment to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Because what you do now, your chain of command is going to say, oh, he's a great guy. Let him move on. You got to get chain of command support if you want to change your job.
And sometimes that's where the friction is. Hey, like if you're a corpsman or something, like that's why he's like, the chain of command's like, well, we want you to be a corpsman. But I got a phone call. I'm working with a guy here local who's an OS, an operational specialist. His first chain of command wouldn't support it at all. His chain of command is now. So much so they're letting him out of PT to come train with me.
Oh, nice.
Because what he did is his chain of command's like, man, this guy is a good dude and he's working really hard. He's not slacking at work. It's like, well, I can't take what he wants to do away from him. He's showing commitment as an OS. They're like, yep, so much commitment, he's being rewarded for it.
Yeah, we have the same thing. We have Fort Meade here.
Okay.
There's a big enlisted group at the academy as well that run that, and then they if they do it right, they're able to show up to work at 8:30, and miss their group PT and PT with guys that are in the local crowd that are delayed entry program guys or in different programs. So it does work. You can make things happen. You just gotta. I guarantee you're probably going to have to put it in writing. So you have to learn how to write.
Yeah.
And you have to go speak to someone who can give you that permission to miss a training program or a PT in the morning, because you're going to be PTing harder, for your next goal. And most commanders and, chiefs, will help you, get towards your goals. They want you to do well for them, but they also want you to do well for you too. It's
the military. I think Stu and I both, like, I love the military and I love my country. And this is not us just, again, we're not getting paid or anything by the military, but we are a byproduct of good mentors while we're in that kept showing us how to treat people right. Certainly there are people that don't, but by and large, our military professionals really do push people to do great things.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. You gotta, and that's a tough too, is once you get in the system, I call the military system, if you will, it'll make a lot more sense. It's tough right now because you're not in the military. Like, man, there's a lot of unknowns. There was for every person that enlisted or got their commission. It's just a big unknown for a minute.
Yeah. One thing I will say to this is that it is no longer the place for people who have nothing else to do.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Especially
they're not even taking like, hey, go to jail, go to the Marines. They're not doing that shit anymore.
Yeah, you have to really be squared away to go in. And some of the smartest people I have ever met have been in the military, officer and enlisted. It's incredible. So
it's there. Like I like that, especially depending on the branch of service too. Like every job is pretty much available in the Army, but that's because it's so huge.
Yeah, it's a big green machine.
It's huge. So, but the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, even, I mean, what a great best kept secret in the military is the Coast Guard, man.
Yeah, Air Force.
So, Air Force.
If you're a high tech guy, want to do something cool, and I mean, you can really get some good skills.
Yeah, for sure.
And serve and do some great stuff. So,
agreed.
All right. So once again, all it takes is a little bit of commitment, and that's a big all. You know, but you know, we're here to help you along the way. Just gotta prove to yourself and prove to us sometimes that, hey, you know, you got the commitment to really do this thing.
For sure. Yep.
So, all right, Jeff. Got anything else?
I think we've covered it all.
All right. Hey, you know, the next time we're going to talk about some you know, different parts of tactical professions. You know, law enforcement side, you know, because we get a lot of military guys that are, you know, trying to get in the FBI or trying to go back home and be a police officer on the SWAT team, things like that. So it is a logical progression as well, kind of get some experience in the military and go in law enforcement, or just go straight law enforcement. So
and we're going to get that a couple times. We'll swing back. Obviously we're not avoiding any sort of bud stuff or spec war stuff. We we're really kind of following the trend from you all. You get a lot of good questions about this. We've just been collecting them for law enforcement, military, cover a bunch of that material, and then we'll make our way back. But we just want to make sure that you're going to see that this all benefits all of you guys. We could be talking about military but at the same token, we could be talking about law enforcement or fire as well.
Absolutely. The same exact person do these jobs.
Agreed.
You know, the military, law enforcement, firefighter. I mean, I do a lot of firefighter training, some local SWAT team stuff, and it's all the same people, just different face and a different uniform.
For sure.
You know, really, everybody's wanting to serve, and they have a commitment to serve, whether that's your country or your community. It's still commitment, and it's I completely honor both sides. So, you know, depending on what you want to do, the same things that we were talking about, getting to and through certain training programs, all apply. We're just going to go a little more specific for the next couple of times and focus on a different level of the tactical athlete. And because there's different requirements and different needs and different stresses, you know, definitely for the law enforcement versus the military guy. So,
for sure.
That's where we're heading. Jeff, as always.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. We'll see you.